Hey, what's up, viewers? Patrick from Bob versus Only back in today's episode number 1 through 2 of Letting Go Week on Bob verse of the day. First verse comes out of Psalm 94, verse 19, and it says, "When anxiety was great within me, your consolation brought me joy." And First Peter 5, verse 7 says, "Cast all your anxieties on him because he cares for you." And let's get into it. The church recap from yesterday begins in the book of Hebrews. We looked at a couple times where "let us" is mentioned in the book of Hebrews, beginning in chapter 3 and reading verses 16 through 19. It says, "Who were they who heard and rebelled? Were they not all those Moses led out of Egypt? And with whom was he angry for 40 years? Was it not with those who sinned, whose bodies perished in the wilderness? And to whom did God swear that they would never enter his rest, if not to see those who disobeyed?" So we see that they were not able to enter because of their unbelief. In Hebrews chapter 4, verse 1, it says, "Therefore, since the promise of entering his rest still stands, let us be careful that none of you be found to have fallen short of it." In verse 11, it says, "Let us therefore make every effort to enter that rest, so that no one will perish by following their example of disobedience." Verse 14 says, "Therefore, since we have a great high priest who has ascended into heaven, Jesus the Son of God, let us hold firmly to the faith we profess." And in verse 16 it says, "Let us then approach God's throne of grace with confidence, so that we may receive mercy and find grace to help us in our time of need." Now going to chapter 11 of Hebrews and reading verse 32 through 37, it reads, "And what more shall I say? I do not have time to tell about Gideon, Barak, Samson, and Jephthah, about David and Samuel and the prophets, who through faith conquered kingdoms, administered justice, and gained what was promised, who shut the mouths of lions, quenched the fury of the flames, and escaped the edge of the sword, whose weakness was turned to strength, and who became powerful in battle, and routed foreign armies. Women received back their dead, raised to life again. There were others who were tortured, refusing to be released, so that they might gain an even better resurrection. Some faced jeers and flogging, and even chains and imprisonment. They were put to death by stoning. They were sawed in two. They were killed by the sword. They went about in sheepskins and goatskins, destitute, persecuted, and mistreated. The world was not worthy of them. They wandered in deserts and mountains, living in caves and in holes in the ground. These were all commended for their faith, yet none of them received what had been promised." And in Hebrews chapter 12, verses 1 through 2, it says, "Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles, and let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us, fixing our eyes on Jesus, the pioneer and perfecter of faith. For the joy set before him, he endured the cross, scorning its shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God." And in 1 Corinthians, in chapter 15, verses 1 through 2, and then 2 through 5, it says, "Now, brothers and sisters, I want to remind you of the gospel I preached to you, which you received and on which you have taken your stand, By this gospel you are saved, if you hold firmly to the word I preached to you. Otherwise you have believed in vain. For what I received I passed on to you, as of first importance, that Christ died for our sins according to the Scriptures, that he was buried, that he was raised on the third day according to the Scriptures, and that he appeared to Cephas and then to the 12. And that is all for the verse portion. And that's going to do it for the video. Thanks for watching. And thanks again, viewers. In every way, God's way is always the best way.